to our great God. Well, I found out first service that they hadn't remembered hearing this joke. My husband last night threw me a loop. He said, I got a joke in here I think I've already used. Now, we've only been here a year and a few months, so we have a lot more jokes than that. I thought, that's kind of bad. But then this morning, I got worried about the same thing. So if it has, just laugh with it anyway. So this poor woman's daughter was sick, and she got a call from the babysitter. She was at work, and so she had to go and get some medicine. She called the doctor and got some medicine, and she went to the pharmacy, but she drove an older car, and sure enough, when she came out with the medicine, she had locked her keys in the car. You know, that happens, doesn't it? Even today with technology, it can happen. She was completely upset, so she called the babysitter. Yes, still sick, needs this medicine, need to get home. But the babysitter at least had the sense to say, go see if in the pharmacy if they happen to have a wire coat hanger. And that's kind of hard to find too anymore. And so the lady went in and she goes, you might be able to get your car open that way. So she went in, they did have one. She came back out with this wire coat hanger. She got the medicine. She's so upset. What is she? She doesn't have any idea how she could get this car open with this car, with this wire coat hanger. So she starts praying to God, and she says, Lord, please, my daughter needs this medicine. I need to get home. Please send me some help. Please, Lord. Well, just about then, she heard a loud muffler thing. She looks up, and a few parking spaces over, a car's pulled in. She looks at the guy as he gets out. He is the scruffiest looking, dirty looking guy. She's like, oh no. She's like, really, Lord? Did you send him to help me? I need help. And the guy looks at her and he goes, he just happened to say, he saw her hand in a coat hanger. He goes, do you need some help? And she's like, yes. She goes, I don't know if you can help me, but I do need some help. I've locked my keys in the car. I'm trying to get home with this medicine for my daughter. She was crying. I'm a mess. Could you help me? And he didn't say nothing. He took the coat hanger. He got the door, lickety-split, got right into the car. Oh, she was ecstatic. Thank you so much. You're so kind. You're so helpful. Thank you so much. You are an answer to my prayers. And the guy looked at her and said, I don't know about any of that. He goes, I'm not kind. I'm not helpful. And she goes, what do you mean? He goes, I just got out of jail. Oh, she said, yes, I was in there for stealing cars. The woman was so happy when she heard this. She's broken to praise. She goes, Lord, thank you so much. You sent an angel to help me, and you sent someone who was a professional. Our professional in the scripture for today was not trying to be helpful. So I'm glad you laughed so well. So maybe you hadn't heard it before, but it is a good one worth telling again. But who's your neighbor? Who's somebody you could help? Today, you helped me by laughing. That was helpful. So how can we decide who is to help? But better question is, who has helped you? Let's think about that for a minute. Who's helped you? It might be someone unexpected. It might be someone that you thought would not help you. I'll give you an example from my own life. I've had many times with people helping me, of course. Over the years, I've been very blessed that way. I hope that I've helped some other people. But one time this happened, and I'll date myself, many moons ago when I was in college. Don't go there, how long ago it was. But you might remember this. Some of you won't remember this because I'm looking out at you and I know you're too young. But back when I was in college, I went to Dubuque. Actually, I was in seminary. I went to Dubuque, Iowa. And in Iowa, there was a girl missing. And they had some other girls taken. And they thought a truck driver had been kidnapping these girls. Yeah, it was really scary. And this was before cell phones and all the tracking devices we have. So I was on my way home down by Quincy from Iowa, from Dubuque, Iowa, and I had to go through the Quad Cities, and then I was going some way that I came around by Galesburg is where I was at, and my tire blew. Gosh. And it wasn't a beautiful day like today. It was just kind of a cloudy day. But I was on the interstate, and so I pulled over, of course, and all this traffic is just going by, and I get so stressed when I have car trouble. It totally is my worst weakness. I pray all the time, do not let me have car trouble, do not let me have car trouble. Anyway, you don't want me around if you have car trouble. Although I will say I do know how to change a tire. My dad taught me that. So anyway, I got out to change my tire. I was like stressed out, but then it got worse. Because as I stand, getting my stuff out of the car and trying to get ready, a big semi-truck pulled in right behind me. And all I could think of, I'm going to be kidnapped. He's going to kill me. Yes, I was dramatic, as I am now. Worse then. And you'll love this part of the story. I said, I had my tire iron, or whatever that thing's called. And I thought, well, I'm going to get one good whack in before I go down. That's my personality. I know. You think anybody can be a Christian. I'm telling you the truth. Jesus loves everybody. That's what this story's about. Of course, this guy was not there to kidnap me like he'd want me, right? No, he didn't need all that trouble. That guy was there to help me change my tire. Bless his heart. He said, he's a big old guy. And I was like, oh. And he totally was like, you need help changing that tire? I heard there was a blonde with pulled outside the road. And he goes, yes, because, on CBs, they talk to each other. Not only did he change my tire, him and these other truck drivers, they said, now, you go to this next exit and go to this gas station. They're waiting for you because we've called ahead. I was like, wow, it was totally awesome. Right, because I had a little donut thing. The car I drive now doesn't even have a spare tire. Nothing. Yes, so you have to call someone and have help. It's a disaster that way. He was my good Samaritan. Right? That truck driver. He didn't have to stop. I hope it didn't make him late or anything, but they had all taken care of me. They didn't even know me from Adam. I was just standing on the side of the road with my car broke down, and they stopped to help me. Now, the term also I want you to think about today, not using anymore, is the term Good Samaritan. Although we've used it for years, there are organizations after it. Because that is not that uplifting of a term. It implies that Samaritans aren't good, but there were plenty of Samaritans that were, even though in our scripture they said he was despised Samaritan. So the Jewish people hated Samaritans. They were people who were their neighbors, and in fact, they were neighbors in geographic area, and they were actually related to the Jews. They were their cousins, and the Jewish people also often had people that were related to them they didn't like. Sound familiar to anybody? Mm-hmm. And the Samaritans didn't like them. They had different places they thought they should worship. And in John 4, Jesus talks to a Samaritan woman. And it's real scandalous. And so when Jesus tells this story, he's telling about the good people, the religious people like the ministers and the people who help at the church. They wouldn't stop and help this guy who had this terrible thing happen to him. But it was a Samaritan who stopped. But we should simply call this story the good neighbor, because that's the answer to the question, who's your neighbor? The good neighbor is the one who stops and shows mercy. And Jesus invites us to think about who's our neighbor. Who's someone that we might be able to stop and help and do extreme things? Now, this guy who stopped and helped, he was ready to help. He was like a Boy Scout. And so that's another invitation to you. Not only think about who's helped you. You can't really tell the stories about who you've helped, but who's helped you. But are you ready to help? Are you in a position where you're taking care of yourself so that you might be enough to help someone else? Right? Like that truck driver was not only taking care of his business, he was in such a position he was ready to help take care of me. And so I invite you to think about that. Are you living your life so that you're so dependent on other people that you really would have a trouble helping someone? Or are you working to be more independent and resourceful so that you can help other people when the time comes? Now, there's something all of us can do, and you can start baby stepping into it. Now, this guy, he was really prepared. Obviously, he was wealthy. He had money to pay for in and to support. It's like he basically gave him his credit card. Now, if I had to go to the emergency room, it's $1,000 out of our pocket before we do anything. If we give him our name and our card, it's $1,000. Supposedly. Of course, I'm avoiding them. And my husband will tell you, sometimes at night, he's like, oh, my chest, I don't know, because we're stressed all the time. And I'm like, you're not going to the emergency room. No. Unless I see blood, then you can go to the emergency. If I think, in my family, we believe in using pressure bandages. We believe in using super glue if necessary. It better be pretty bad blood for you to go to the emergency room that I'm going to spend $1,000 just starting. So that's how cheap we are. So this guy is so generous that he's willing to do that. And he has other resources. You know, he has his wine, which great antiseptic, great pain medicine. He has oil to seal it up, bandages to care for this. I mean, he's ready. He is ready to help. And that's what I invite myself to try to be. I need to take care of myself well enough so I'm ready to help other people, right? And that's what you should challenge yourself to do. Don't be so dependent on other people that you're not able to help someone. Think about being more independent, not to a point where you're exclusionary, but be independent enough that you can help someone, that you can provide for someone. This Samaritan, as I said, was despised, but Jesus used him as the hero of this story. He understood that he could help and was filled with compassion, even though it was someone he didn't even like. So this week, God may present someone that you don't like in your life that's going to need some help from you. Think about this story and think, can I help them? Can I have compassion on them? They're an annoyance in my life. Why do I have to help them? That seems to be the ones God brings to my life a lot. It's like, none of you nice people hardly ever call me or text me, but I got a couple other people from way back. I'm like, oh my gosh. People, go on. You have new pastors. They have my number. So think about a way that you know, who is it? And prepare yourself. Lord, ask God. Say, Lord, help me to be ready to help this person and to be open to help this person. And also be ready to help from somebody else. You never know who might be willing and able to help you. You might not know when you're going to need help. There's plenty of opportunities in our area. Now, this is just a picture of what is called the Samaritan's Purse help group. You might have heard of them. Franklin Graham established that organization. It's a worldwide organization. They often do Operation Children's Shoe Boxes and other things, but this is a group of volunteers, and they're cleaning up limbs. And, of course, we know that our neighbors not too far away need our help in Gibson City and Elgin. So, they are still looking for help. And on our announcement sheet, and if we run out, I'll print some more. I forgot to do that in between services. But there's announcement sheets out there. We emailed everyone who's on our list. But you can have that information on how to help. Now, you may think, I'm not that great of a help. Like, I don't have a bunch of mechanical skills or whatever. But you know what I found in all these work sites that they need? Somebody to pick up trash. They do. If you can pick up trash for an hour, 15 minutes even, you're going to be a help to them. Because I'm not that talented in many ways. But I've learned I can pick up trash. I've been to work sites all over the place. There's always stuff to pick up. There's always water you could hand out to people. There's always, you could be an encouraging word. So you could go help in some way, and I hope you figure out how to help. But if you're physically or just too busy, not able to go help, then you could make a financial donation. That's another way we can help. Don't use around, and we always say Starbucks. I don't know McDonald's coffee, I don't know how much it costs, but, make your coffee at home and then use that money to give to people in Gibson City. And I just give it to the church and we'll put on there Gibson City and we'll help get there. Or guess where else you can help? Haiti, they had a terrible earthquake. There's, of course, fires out west, floods in the east, Afghanistan. If you want to help with any of these organizations that the Lord has put on your heart, all you have to do is grab an offering envelope, write on where you want it to go, and I guarantee you we will get it to where it needs to go. The United Methodist Church is awesome that way about being good neighbors, what we call UMCOR, the United Methodist Committee on Relief. All of the administrative cost of handling the needs and training people and stuff, we absorb that Through our apportionments and through our special offerings, we absorb that. So when we do have these special needs that we give to, whatever you give, 100% of what you give for a special event like a flooding or Gibson City or wherever, Afghanistan, Haiti, 100% of that will go to that need. And so that's something really special about being a good neighbor. But I want to tell you about an experience Paul and I had with a good neighbor. When we were first married, we lived down in New Athens, Illinois, and we served our churches, and Paul was serving in New Athens. And we had a neighbor who shared our backyard. Now, that neighbor was a good neighbor, fine neighbor. She liked to point out to us ways we could improve, if you know that kind of neighbor. And that was fine because we needed to improve, I'm sure. So it was kind of a joke with us about her little improvements that she would offer us, So she was over there. And we had, that year was when we first got married. Paul got appointed mid-appointment, so he was down there, and we hadn't got married, and then we got married, and I moved down there. So he had been down there by himself. So at first I thought, well, she probably did need to give him some pointers on how things are running, since I wasn't down there to supervise. No, I'm just joking. But we had a garden trying to get going and all this stuff, and Paul never had a garden before, so we did need some supervision. So that was that neighbor there. But then here to our right, in that shared our yard, but over there was his family, nice family. But this guy was a cultural challenge, at least for me, and I think for Paul too. He was nice, very nice, but one thing about him, for one thing, in this town, they had great nicknames. Everybody had a nickname. So that neighbor's nickname was Muskie. Yeah, he liked to fish, I guess. His name was Muskie. Over here we had Boog. Don't ask. It was fine. They were nice people. Boog was a great Christmas decorator. He had so many Christmas lights. The first year they came way over in our yard. And he never came and asked us. We didn't know that our yard was part of his Christmas display because he was trying to win the contest. It was so bright, we had to put stuff up in the window. I mean, it was crazy. It was like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. But Muskie was living next door, and Muskie liked to drink his beer. Now, I never seen him drunk. He didn't cuss. He didn't have wild parties. But every time you saw him, he had a beer. I can't remember what kind it was. But he had his beer. But the other thing Muskie liked to do, he liked to go without a shirt. Now, that's fine, but you know what happens when you drink a lot of beer? I know these kind of things. I can say this kind of stuff. But his was such a shock to us because actually it was really kind of a thing of amazement because it was really firm and it was really brown because he never wore a shirt. So but it was such a shock to us. I mean, so you can imagine how, I know you probably think I'm a prude. I'm not that big of a prude. Really, I'm not. People know me like, I can't believe that upset you. But it took a while to get used to. I just wasn't used to people because my dad and our family, you made sure and wore shirts because we have skin cancer and we were all nobody was tan, everybody was pale. So to see this tan person, it was just amazing. So anyway, time passes and Joanne, our neighbor who lived behind us, who was so critical, she got sick and died right away. Yeah, it was terrible. We were sad, but none of us knew her family, and so. After she died, her yard, it was real wet, and her yard grew really bad and needed, we didn't even think about it. We weren't paying attention. Paul and I weren't. So pretty soon, Muskie comes over, and he asked Paul, he said, don't you think we ought to mow her yard? Muskie, and here the professionals, the pastors, the people who should be good neighbors, we weren't paying any attention to that. And Paul was the pastor in that town, so I think Muskie wanted him to help. He didn't need him to help, but I think he wanted him to help so he had permission. You never know about people's yards. You should, be careful. And so, of course, Paul said, yes, we'll go mow their yard. And not long after that, the family did come, and they were so appreciative that the yard had gotten mowed because Muskie was the one who thought to be a good neighbor. And how wonderful it is when we have people like that who are such a blessing in our lives. Thank you for any of you who offer encouragement to others. You've had many who help you. But I want to close with an example. you don't have to help people, and then it's a problem. Paul and I like to travel, and we had a stressful trip. It always seems like we have a stressful trip home because your pastor likes to, on the last night, I like to do all the fun things they're doing for your going away, which is a mistake when you're traveling. Because then when you like don't go to bed till 1 a.m., you're tired. You don't have to drink to enjoy all those things. I'm not a big drinker, but I love the music and fireworks and whatever else everybody has going on. I hate to end a trip, so I'm always staying up late. So we were tired trying to get home. And on this particular trip, somehow, because of cost, I'm sure, because we're very frugal, we went through Iceland. And we were kind of excited because we'd never seen Iceland. It was fun, so we were doing a European trip. And so when we got to Iceland, there was some problem, and there was a delay. And we were totally distressed because we had another couple connections to get back home. And so, but when we first pulled into Iceland, before we knew about all this, we were so impressed. I mean, everything was so, Nordic and clean, and the people. I wish you could see, and maybe you have seen, the Iceland people who worked for the airport. They were statuesque. They were models. They were so beautiful looking. I mean, it was just a privilege to look at them. We were just like, oh my gosh, these people are how wonderful that we've done this, was our attitude. Until this problem happened. And we tried to find out solutions. And being Americans, or at least being who we are, being me, and Paul's the same way, we like to know little information. And so we went up to ask them questions. And these very beautiful Iceland people were very polite. They weren't mean to us, but they were not helpful. No information. All they kept saying was, you need to get on the plane, blah, 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 when it gets ready. That's all they would say. And I mean, they said it really nice and really beautifully said. That was it. And I was going crazy. I was like, I need more information. I need to know if I'm going to make the next flight. And no matter what we try, they're just like, nope. You see, you can be polite without being helpful. So I want you, friends, this week to really invite yourself to stretch by not only making sure you're ready, that you could help somebody, but ready outside and inside, that you don't prejudge who God sends you that might need help, but that you offer the help you can give, that you're ready to do it, and that you offer help, that you do help them, like the Samaritan in our story of being a good neighbor. It takes more than being a good neighbor than just saying hello. It takes action. And God invites us to be action people. So this week, I hope you think about the people who've helped you. And more importantly, I hope you watch for the people that God is sending you in whatever state you are, in whatever little ripple you might be able to give. Maybe it's a little ripple. Maybe it's a medium-sized ripple. Maybe you are equipped to do a big ripple for someone. But you think of that, of a person you can tell, that you can help, that they'll have a story to tell, to share faith in Jesus Christ. And if they ask you why you're doing it, please tell them you're doing it because of Jesus. Amen. Amen.